Hello, and welcome to another Tech Tuesday presented by Delta Media Group, where we've always said, never trust an atom. They make up everything. So in the DeltaNet today, did you know that there is a way that you can notify other agents within your company if you have a new listing and you want to see if they have any potential buyers that might be interested in it? Or vice versa, if you have a buyer that's interested in a particular kind of listing, you can fire off a notification to other agents in your company to let them know that you have that as well, so that they can potentially reach out with listings they might have. Well, as it turns out, there is a way to do that, and it is called the Haves and Wants system. So to get there, you may have a link anywhere in these tiles up here at the top of any of these landing pages. You might have one right at the top of your dashboard. These are all customizable on a per company basis, so you may or may not have a link there to it. But whether you do or not, if I go up here and I type in Haves and Wants, you can see there is an option for the Haves and Wants system. So if I click on that, that takes me into the Haves and Wants system, and the first thing we have here is the notification settings. So what this allows you to do is decide how you want to be notified, or if you want to be notified through this system at all. So by default, it is switched on, and you will receive notifications if any agent posts a have or a want through this system. If I click on Advanced Options, it opens up a set of options that allows me to customize how exactly I'm notified through this system. So first off, my first option allows me to choose what kind of notifications I want to receive. So do I want to receive an email instantly when another agent posts a listing through the system or posts a potential buyer through the system? The next is I can get a daily digest email. So if there are a lot of posts being made regularly, this will only send me one email per day that just gives me a digest of all the posts that were made. And then lastly, I can get a weekly digest. So just once a week, I'll get an email of everything that was added to the system that week. And then I can choose which day of the week I'd like to receive it. So we'll leave this thing on our daily digest for now. Now the next option here is if I don't want to be notified exactly like this, I can go to option 2, and it gives me some additional options here for what kinds of messages I'd like to receive. So do not allow other agents to message me through this system, so I don't want to get any messages at all. Or I can check just this box and say, do not allow other agents to email me notifications that have the message type of agent has a buyer. Now, these message types are controlled at the company level, so you may not have exactly the same thing here. But the point is, there are multiple types of notifications that can be sent through the system, and this lets you decide which ones you don't want to get. So if I leave this unchecked, I won't get anything. And if I check one of these, I'll just not get the types that I check. Of the ones that I do get, it'll follow the settings up here. So then my next set of options here is I can also narrow down exactly who I want to be able to receive these notifications from. So what this does is you can see it looks at the settings in option 1, so that determines still whether I get the instant email, the daily digest, or the weekly digest. But then here I can say I only want to receive these kinds of messages from agents in specific offices. Now by default what it does is, and you'll see this when we go to actually create a message, but when you make one it lets you choose which offices agents you'd like to notify. So the neat thing there is you can kind of target those notifications so you're not firing off a message to everybody, just those that are in offices where they're likely to have potential buyers that might be interested in your property, or those in offices that might have listings that your potential buyer might be interested in. What this allows you to do is narrow down who you can get those from. So if I only wanted to get messages from agents that are in the Hills and Dales sample office in this case, I would just check this box, and then those are the only agents I'll get notifications from. So you can also narrow that down however you'd like, add additional offices so you can have more than one. But if you do have this checked, you'll want to select at least one of these, otherwise this option is kind of pointless. So I'll switch this back over to option 1, and I could update my settings here. And actually in this case I don't really need to update these settings, so I'll just click Advanced Options and that collapses all that for me. Now you can also see, because I started kind of fiddling around in there, it disabled my Enable Notifications box, because it recognizes that that was basically a setting that I had turned off by playing around with these settings. So we'll collapse that out. Now the next section we have here is the ability to actually create one of these messages, and you can choose which message type you create. Again, this is custom on a per company basis, so the company can control what message types you can create through here. So that determines what options you have here. And we'll get back to this section. We'll jump back up here after we look at the last one, and we'll actually go through and kind of build out a message. So then the last piece we have here is the notification digest section. So if there's anything you missed, or if you just want to hit this page whenever you want and see all the posts that have been made through the system, you can just take a look here and you can actually see all of those posts right in line. And you can see we have a lot of test posts in here, but the idea is you can cycle through these multiple pages and you can see all of the different notifications that other agents have put in here, be they for a buyer or a seller. So now when it comes to creating one of these notifications, you just select the type of message you want to send. So in this case, we'll say agent has a buyer. So I have a buyer and I'm looking for a seller. So I'll click on, now that I've selected my type, I'll click I agree, just to say that I agree to the terms here and proceed to step 2. There we go. And now at this point, I can select who I want my message to go to. So right now, let's say I only want it to go to agents. I don't want it to go to management users, so I'll uncheck that. And then I can also select from the offices that I am able to send to. So we just have these 2 offices here, so I can check all, or I can just individually select the ones I'd like to send to. And then proceed to step 3. And now in step 3, I actually fill out my message. So on every one of these, you'll have the from name, address, and the subject. Those are all things that are predefined, so it just displays them for you here, but you can't modify those. And then below that, you can see I have a bunch of test fields here. Now, these are actually defined by the company. So the company can say there's certain information they want always to be included whenever you have a buyer. So they could put a field in and give it a name, and then all those fields will be labeled here. So if they're marked required like this, you just fill those out with the appropriate information, and then move on to the next step. Next, you fill out your message, and you can fill that message out, the content however you'd like. It's just a very basic WYSIWYG editor here. So it's not like the full page editor, but just a basic email editor, so you can add some formatting in here if you'd like. The next piece is you can choose whether or not you want to include your lead signature. This is the signature that's set up in your lead settings, so you could just uncheck that, and you could fill out your signature however you'd like here, or you can just keep that checked, and it saves you putting that in. And then lastly, you have the option, or could potentially have the option, again based on company settings, to put some attachments into this particular message. So in the case of having a buyer and looking for a seller or looking for a particular property, the message attachments probably won't be all that useful. However, if you did have a listing that you haven't actually listed yet, and you're sending that out to a group that could potentially have buyers that would be interested, it might not be a bad idea to include like an informational sheet or even a picture or 2, just as file attachments here, just to give them a little bit more information about the property. So this is a neat thing that if you're in an area where the MLS allows it, you could have something that maybe you're about to list and you haven't quite put it out yet, and just kind of announce it to everybody else in your company to see if you can grab a buyer that way pretty quickly. So once your message is all set up the way you'd like, you just click send message, and that's all there is to it. It fires off the message and you're all set. So the other nice thing here is up at the top, it does actually notify you how many people will be notified of this particular message based on the settings you chose in step 2. So it's kind of a neat, easy way that you can get an idea of what the reach of your email is going to be when it comes to all the other agents within the company it'll send to. So instead of sending it out, I'll just go back over to the Haves and Wants page, and we can take a look at one other piece. There we go. So back over here, if I had chosen the other option, there could be different options available to me here. So I'm saying I have a buyer, and you saw all those test fields available. So if I say agent has a seller, then move on to step 2 there, and we'll stick with agents and management users. Why not? Oh, I need at least one office. You can see I don't have all those test fields here. So the idea is that these different emails and which fields are available and which fields are required are based on the type of email being sent, because things that make sense to include in a email where you have a listing that you're announcing to a bunch of agents that hopefully have buyers, there might be different fields that make sense in the case of you have a buyer and you're looking for a listing. So that's why it allows you to make that choice. So there you have it. That is how you can use the Haves and Wants system to notify other agents when you have a listing or when you have a buyer, to hopefully get more engagement on that right away, and kind of give agents within your company kind of the exclusive look at a listing when it first comes on the market. So, as always, thanks for joining me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to send an email to support@deltagroup.com or give us a call, and we will help you through this or whatever else you need. Thanks a lot.